Two men went hiking in the Appalachian Mountains on a Friday evening. By Sunday, they were missing. By Thursday, hope was already fading. By day 17, almost everyone had given up. But they were out there, alive, tied to trees, less than 6 miles from where hundreds of people had been searching for over 2 weeks. And the men who put them there had been to the ranger station. They had watched the news coverage. One of them had even handed out flyers. Welcome back to Old Casebook, the channel where we cover the cases that stay with you long after the screen goes dark. If you're new here, subscribe, because we bring you a new real case every single week. Today's story is one of the most disturbing survivals we've ever covered. Let's get into it. Cataloochee Valley, North Carolina, October 2007. Jacob Mills was 25 years old, quiet, analytical, the kind of person who carried a small field notebook on every hiking trip. Not because anyone told him to, just because details mattered to him. Aaron Seiler was 27, louder, sharper with a joke, but just as focused when it came to the mountains. The two had met during a freshman orientation hike at Western Carolina University and bonded instantly over their shared love for the wilderness. For years, they'd explored sections of the Appalachian together. This was just another trip. One more weekend before exams pulled them back inside. October 19th, 2007. A cool Friday. Fog sitting heavy in Cataloochee Valley. Leaves turning bronze and gold. Jacob told his sister he'd be back Sunday night. Just a short trip. Aaron texted his roommate at 7:42 in the evening from a gas station just before the last stretch of mountain road. Security footage from that station showed them buying snacks and 2 thermoses of coffee, laughing with each other at the counter. That was the last time anyone saw them conscious and safe. When Sunday passed with no word, both families grew uneasy. By Monday morning, missing persons reports had been filed with the Haywood County Sheriff's Office. A search was ordered that same afternoon. Cold rain swept through the valley, erasing footprints, soaking every trail. Visibility near zero. Rangers found Jacob's Jeep Cherokee parked neatly off a Forest Service road near Black Hollow Gap, doors locked. Inside, both backpacks, 2 maps, and Jacob's field journal resting on the passenger seat. The keys were missing. No blood, no broken glass, no signs of a struggle. It looked as though they had simply stepped out of the car and walked into the trees. Search teams began grid sweeps across 20,000 acres, steep ravines, overgrown switchbacks, the kind of wilderness that swallows sound whole. Rescuers started at dawn and worked past dark, shouting both names into the fog. The forest gave nothing back. Cell records showed both phones going dead around 8:20 on Friday evening, barely 40 minutes after that last text from the gas station. Locals reported hearing a vehicle speeding along the gravel road near Black Hollow Gap around the same time. Nobody could describe it clearly through the fog. On day 6, a veteran ranger said something that stayed with everyone on the team. You can tell when people panic and try to survive. They leave a mess behind, fire remnants, torn packs, clawed bark. There was nothing here. It was too clean. On day 10, a hunter reported hearing faint voices echoing from a ravine below Devil's Backbone Ridge. 2 people mumbling. One sounded like he was praying. Search teams moved in at dawn through brutal terrain, steep drops, slick moss. They found nothing. But just before leaving, a ranger noticed something lodged in a tree. 2 short lengths of rope, hand-tied with knots that looked deliberate. The bark below was scuffed smooth, as if something had been pressed against it for days. The ranger who found them said later, the knots were too new, too clean, like someone had just taken them off. Nobody understood what that meant yet. By November 5th, day 17, almost everyone had stopped looking. The official search had been scaled back. Rangers were returning equipment. Volunteers had been thanked and dismissed. The story had slipped off the front page. A hiking group from Tennessee, 6 friends exploring lesser-known ridges 6 miles north of the original search area, set out on a pale, cold morning following a narrow stream through the valley. Around noon, one of them stopped. Across the water, something caught in a tangle of brush. He thought it was fabric. When he stepped closer, he realized it was skin. 2 figures positioned upright against trees on opposite sides of the creek, bound at the wrists and ankles with sun-bleached rope, motionless, heads tilted forward, faces colorless and swollen. The hikers thought they were looking at 2 bodies. Then one of them stepped closer and saw a faint movement, a twitch of the chest, barely visible through the shirt. Both were alive. 911 was called immediately. The group stayed with them, afraid to move them, afraid the 2 men would stop breathing if they did. Within 40 minutes, rangers and medics were on site. Jacob and Aaron had been bound in an almost identical fashion, arms extended around the trees, ropes cutting deep into their skin, clothes torn, faces pale and streaked with dirt, lips cracked from dehydration, bodies thin, almost skeletal, covered in insect bites, no injuries consistent with a fall or an animal attack, as if they had been kept alive, just enough to suffer. Both men were airlifted to Asheville Medical Center. Neither reacted to touch or light during the flight. Doctors described them as medically stable but unresponsive, a phrase that comforted no one. For 15 days, the hospital room barely changed, monitors beeping, blinds half drawn, family members rotating at the bedside, whispering prayers into the steady hum of machines. Then, a twitch so small the nurse almost missed it. Jacob's right hand, the one wrapped in gauze from rope burns, moved slowly across the blanket. His eyes opened halfway. He stared at the ceiling, blinking in the sterile light. When the doctor leaned in and said his name, he didn't answer. He tried to speak. The sound that came out was dry and broken, like he hadn't used his voice in years. They handed him a notepad and pen. His fingers trembled. It took him nearly a full minute to write 3 words. They left us there. Aaron woke 4 days later. He blinked slowly at the faces around him, then closed his eyes again and whispered one word: trees. As the sedatives left their systems, the truth surfaced in flashes. Both men described the same night. They had pitched their tent near a clearing, cooked dinner, gone to sleep around midnight. Jacob heard footsteps, close, deliberate. When he unzipped the tent flap, a flashlight blinded him. 3 men, masked, dark clothes, armed. Aaron tried to yell. One of them struck him across the head. They were dragged deeper into the woods, stumbling, wrists already bound. The men didn't speak at first, just pushed them forward through the dark. Then one of them said something. Jacob later told investigators he heard it clearly. "No one's going to find you here." Both were tied to separate trees before dawn, mocked, laughed at. At one point, beer was poured over their heads. Aaron remembered being injected with something, a sharp sting in his neck. Then nothing. For days afterward, they drifted in and out of consciousness, aware only in brief flashes. Daylight, then darkness, then voices, Jacob described waking once during a storm. Rain pouring through his clothes. He could barely lift his head. In the distance, he could hear the men arguing. One yelled something about going too far. Another told him to shut up. Then silence. Then nothing. The sedatives found in their systems were veterinary tranquilizers stolen from a nearby farm supply store, a product used only for livestock. Forensic teams confirmed something else that Jacob had mentioned, something that chilled every investigator in the room. Someone had returned to the site multiple times after the initial assault. Soil compression marks and rope wear patterns showed the bindings had been adjusted on several occasions. The captors hadn't just left them. They had come back, deliberately kept them alive. Aaron described waking once to see a man standing in front of him in the dark, flashlight raised, looking at him quietly. The man said, "You're still breathing good." Doctors said both men had only hours left to live when the Tennessee hikers found them. One more day, and neither would have survived. By January 2008, investigators had built the case brick by brick. Every piece of rope traced, cell pings from the night of the disappearance mapped. A cigarette butt recovered at the scene, DNA confirmed. Grainy footage from a diner camera down the valley. All of it pointed to the same three men, Travis Dell, and his cousins, Eli and Cole Brent. Travis was taken from his workshop at dawn, barefoot, still in grease-stained jeans, a cigarette burning in the corner of his mouth. He didn't fight, didn't ask why, just said, "I figured you'd come," and turned around to be cuffed. All three were in interrogation rooms within hours, separated by concrete walls, connected by one unspeakable act. At first, they denied everything. Then, investigators played them against each other. By the end of the second night, all three had broken. The motive was revenge. Travis told investigators that Jacob had humiliated him months earlier. An argument over a spilled drink that had ended with laughter at Travis's expense. He had brought it up again and again to his cousins, feeding the anger until it hardened into something else entirely. He said they only meant to scare them, to teach them a lesson. The evidence said otherwise. Cole confessed to leaving when helicopters began circling overhead. Travis had told him, "We're done. Let the forest finish it." Travis Dell, 35 years in federal prison. Eli Brent, 28 years. Cole Brent, 26 years. When the verdict was read, Travis stared at the table. No expression. Outside the courthouse, Jacob's mother said, "Justice doesn't fix what they took." But it's something. For Jacob and Aaron, recovery was slow and never really complete. Physically, both healed. The bruises faded. The rope burns softened into scars. But the forest never left them. Jacob developed panic attacks whenever he smelled damp wood or rain on concrete. Aaron suffered from recurring nightmares, sometimes waking clawing at his own wrists. Neither returned to Western Carolina University. Years later, Aaron agreed to a single interview. When asked if he still thought about what happened, he didn't hesitate. "Every day. It's not the faces I see, it's the sound of the trees. I still dream of them closing in." Near the Cataloochee trailhead today, a small wooden sign marks the area. Two names carved into the wood: Jacob Mills, Aaron Seiler. Not as victims, as survivors. Locals still leave offerings there: water bottles, folded notes, sometimes bits of rope, tied loosely, as if to mark the boundary between cruelty and endurance. In the final police statement issued after sentencing, one line stood out above all others. They were meant not to be found, but the forest gave them back. That line still circulates in search and rescue briefings today. Jacob and Aaron survived 17 days in conditions that should have killed them in 3. Not because of luck, not because of a miracle, because something in them refused to stop, even when they had no way of knowing anyone was still looking. Everything in this story comes from court records, survivor testimonies, forensic reports, and investigative documents that took years to surface. The men who tied them to those trees went to the ranger station, watched the news, handed out flyers, and for 17 days, no one knew. What moment from this story is going to stay with you? Tell us in the comments below. We read every single one. And if these are the cases that follow you out of the room, make sure you're subscribed to Old Casebook, because there are cases out there where the truth is still waiting, buried under years of silence. And the people who know what happened are still breathing,